Good morning, Westminster Unitarian Church. So good to be with you this morning. I'm Reverend Eric Cherry, your interim minister and your worship partner this morning. And I'm so glad that we're together on this World Kindness Day. I was reminded of that just this morning. And so let's be super kind to each other on World Kindness Day. How wonderful that is. And I want to say that whether you're here on campus here at Smith Hall at the Westminster Church, or gathering with us from off, or would like to sign up for our weekly e-newsletter, please fill out a visitor card at the usher's table and place it in the offering plate when the offering plate comes around. Or if you're new and visiting from offsite, you'll find a link in the chat that you can click to sign up for our e-newsletter and to let us know that you'd like us to be in touch. And with that, want to note that that the chalice before me is a symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. And again, if you're zooming in and have a chalice, please prepare to light it. As we light our chalice here on campus, please light yours. And if you are doing so, I invite you to share the street where you're lighting the chalice from in the chat. The chalice lighting reading this morning was written by the UU minister, Reverend Sean Parker Dennison. I want to imagine and help create a powerful vision of peace by peaceful means, liberty by liberatory means, justice by just means. I want us to believe and to live as if we believe that a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all is possible.
Yeah.
Can you get this open? Oh, no, you
Good morning. I just want to say, since I haven't met some of you, that especially the families with children and youth, that my name is Rev DL, just the initials, and you'll see me a couple times a month all year supporting Reverend Eric. And I look forward to getting to know you better. Our opening words today are by the Reverend Otto O'Connor, titled On a Holy Night in 1969. On a holy night in 1969, at an inn known as a bar called the Stonewall Inn, a basement which had no running water nor any safe fire exits, queer people of many colors and kinds danced together, for it was the only place that they were allowed to dance, where they were permitted to dance, at least permitted by the mafia who ran it in those days. It was common for the police to frequent this inn, not to join in the dance, not to join in the underground celebration, but to send the dancers home and to make arrests. And when they would arrive, the lights would go on and the people would be lined up, and then all those in drag, all those who were trans, all those without proper identification were arrested and taken into custody. But on this holy night, on the early morning of June 28th, the people said, "Not tonight." And when they called them to line up, the trans women refused to go. And as the police began to arrest them, as the people spilled from the bar onto the street, Christopher Street, a crowd grew to watch. And then the trans women, the lesbians, the gay men were getting arrested. And a yell came from the crowd, "Gay power." And a trans woman was shoved, and she shoved back, and all began throwing bottles at the wagon, at the police wagon. And then suddenly it erupted. And for once the people didn't line up. For once the people said, "No more, we've had enough." It was almost as if that night, being pulled out of the darkness of the underground at Stonewall Inn, one too many times they said, "I am ready to be seen." On this holy night, when the power of the oppressed rippled through the streets of New York, when the queer people said no more, our world would never be the same. Please join us in body or spirit. Please rise in body or spirit for hymn number 155, Circle Round for Freedom.
Freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us in prison. Circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children. Keep the circle whole. Again, circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us in prison. Circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children. Keep the circle whole. And would you please join me in stating the covenant of our congregation, our unison affirmation? Love is the spirit of this church, and service is our mission. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Please be seated.
So next week, when Rev Eric is not here, because all people need a weekend away, we're going to have a Thanksgiving celebration of sorts. And if there are any young people, young adults who are interested in helping out, please find me after the service. I could use some voices that are not my own. Thank you. With that, we'll do the time for all ages. So once a time, there was a little girl who was the queen of an island. And one day, her advisor said to her, "Your Majesty, the people on this island are good, but beware that the people on the next island are our enemies."
Our enemies, said the queen. How terrible.
"It is terrible," said the advisor. "For our little island will never be safe while we have enemies. We must find a way to get rid of our enemies."
You are quite right, said the queen. Do you have any ideas?
"I do, indeed. We can take our army, put it on a ship, sail it to the other island, and then our army can march on their shore and we can destroy our enemy."
The queen wasn't so sure that this was a good idea. Thank you for sharing your ideas, said the queen, but I need some more time to think about it all. Maybe you can come back tomorrow.
"Yes, Your Majesty," said the advisor, and he bowed and he left the room. But the next day, the advisor came back to return to the queen, and he was shocked to find her having tea with the queen from the neighboring island. The advisor turned red with anger. "How can you sit there and drink tea with that person?" he shouted. "She is our enemy. We must get rid of our enemies."
The queen looked at her advisor with eyes that were calm and steady. You have been a good advisor, she said, and you are right. We do have to get rid of our enemies. You would have me destroy our enemies by conquering them with an army. But the best way to get rid of our enemies is to make them our friends.
And that's the question we explore today. How do we learn from each other? And how do we get through the difficult questions together and with love? With that, please join us in the children's recessional.
As you journey, may you know, love and hope go with you, love and hope go with you, learn and grow, learn and grow. As you journey, may you know, love and hope go with you, love and hope go with you, learn and grow, learn and grow. As we gather in community, we carry life's hurts and its joys, recognizing that joys shared are multiplied and that hurts shared can be lightened. We invite you to share your joys and sorrows in community. On behalf of our lay pastoral care team, Camila Barjakowski, Sue Bolins, and Rob DeLong, we're very glad to hear from you during the week and on Sundays about the joys and sorrows that you carry. All are invited to use the online form anytime during the week to share a joy or sorrow with the lay pastoral care team and myself. You can also do that using the laptop in the Smith Hall on this Sunday and on future Sundays down the road. Or if you'd like to share a joy or sorrow by writing it down on a slip of paper, those papers are also available at the table here in Smith Hall. And I'd like to request for those papers to be brought forward at this time. For all joys and sorrows in our hearts this morning. This past Friday morning, I was honored to deliver the invocation and the benediction at the East Greenwich Veterans Day Parade at the closing ceremony. That's a simple request of a very simple clergyman, but an honor that rotates from around town amongst the clergy, and one that I was grateful for in order to express to our town that Westminster Unitarian Church is a place where the sacrifice and the service of veterans is held in high regard. And in that same spirit, I'd like to ask veterans and family members of veterans who are here with us this morning to please rise in body or in spirit as we express to you our appreciation and the honor we have for you. You are a blessing to us all. We honor you. We honor the sacrifice and the service. You're in our hearts today and always. Please be seated. And I want to share a portion of the message that I brought to the town on Friday as we gather our hearts and minds in prayer and reflection this morning. Help us to keep sacred the bonds of gratitude and responsibility, that the care for those who have borne arms for our sake is always met with reliability and generosity. Hold us in trust that when the bodies and the souls of our veterans are in need of care, that they will be provided for. Extend the bravery and the courage which our veterans displayed in the face of adversity and uncertainty into all of our lives. Help us to be inspired by them, even as we remember and celebrate how unique their devotion to the principles of our republic have been. And Holy One, gracious God, as we affirm our gratitude and appreciation, help us to foster the prophecy of Isaiah, your promise of a kingdom coming in which they shall beat their swords into plowshares, their spears into pruning hooks, so that nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. And finally, in solemn prayer and meditation, hear a reinterpreted version of the 23rd Psalm, a companion of veterans and so many others who have felt the challenge of the darkest of nights. This reinterpretation is by Reverend Kevin Tarsa. It's entitled Psalm 23 for This Moment. Please join me in prayer and reflection. May I remember in this tender moment that love is my guide, always, shepherding me toward ways of openness and compassion. I have what I need, really, with love at my side, above me, below me, in front of me, behind me, inside every cell of me. Love infused everywhere. Just when the weight of the world I inhabit threatens to drop me in place and press my hope down into the ground beneath me, love invites me to rest for a gentle while and leads the center of my soul to the quiet, still, restoring waters nearby that somehow I had not noticed. May we all find those restoring waters. May we know them as a blessing. Amen. And please remain seated as we join together in our sung response, which is number 123 in the thick hymnal, Spirit of Life. Unitarian Universalist congregations are built on congregational polity, which means that it is the people who create this place, who sustain this place, and who live the values of this place. One way that we sustain this congregation and live our values is to take a moment each Sunday morning to share an offering with each other. And our offering each Sunday is shared with an organization, one organization each month that does good work in the community. Founded in 2010, the nonprofit Adessia produces specialized foods that target the different stages of malnutrition. They partner with humanitarian aid organizations like UNICEF, WFP, the World Food Program, and USAID, which distribute their products all over the world. Adessia is based just around the corner in North Kingstown, Rhode Island. You can read more about Adessia by visiting the Westminster UU website. And if you're online and would like to make a contribution, you can do so by clicking on the link that will appear in the chat. The other half of each Sunday morning goes to support all of the good work, the ministries of your congregation, of this beloved community, Westminster Unitarian Church. And so in that spirit, a spirit of generosity, of hope, of transformation for self and the world, we will now give and receive this morning's offering.
Sometimes when two ministers co-create worship, you both pull readings on the same topic. So we wound up with two readings thanking our veterans, but I don't think that there's too much thanks. So I'm going to redo the second one as well. If the only prayer you ever say in your life is thank you, it will be enough. And that's from Meister Eckhart. Today, we have set aside time to publicly thank you, our siblings who have served in the Air Force, the Army, the Coast Guard, the Navy, and the Marines, to say thank you to all who served, whatever you role, wherever your service took you. We say thank you to those whose service was brief and to those who made a career of their service. We say thank you to those who remember their service with fondness and those whose time and service still haunts them. We say thank you to those of you who returned to us largely intact, who found jobs, started families, and continue to find ways to serve your communities. And we say thank you to veterans who returned with brokenness so deep that they continue to struggle to find a role or even a home in our communities. God of many names, source of all love, in face of all of this, sometimes the only prayer we have is thank you. And we pray that you will hear our love. So I remember talking with one of my sisters, and I have 9 siblings, just to be clear. There's halves and steps, but there's 9 of us. I remember talking with one of my sisters, Sarah, when she was in Iraq, fighting as a Marine during the first Gulf War. She was young, small, about 5'1" on a good day, and a pretty typical mixture of bravado and fear. And she was there by choice, or at least she was a Marine by choice. She had enlisted willingly as a Korean linguist, and she had found herself caught up in the war in the Middle East. And she told me what she could about the living conditions, the sand, the heat, the dry, the MREs, or meals ready to eat. She told me about the biological warfare drills, of how young Marines sat body to body, sweating, terrified, often not being sure if this was the real thing. I admired her, and I still do. She did what she believed in, fought for a cause that felt right and true to her, and she did it willingly, even if from within a body full of fear. And I prayed every day, and I'm not a prayer, for her safe return. And one day she came home body intact, and we were thrilled. But it took a while to see the toll that the war had taken on her psyche. And when I did see it, I fought for her to get help. But she fought back because the Marines had told her point blank that to seek psychological support would end her career. So fast forward 20 years. She survived her time in Iraq and has done the work of recovering the best that she is able to, which is pretty amazing. She is the loving mother of 2 great kids and an all-around amazing human. And while I won't talk at length of my brother Jason, who was a medic in Afghanistan, suffice it to say, he survived that time as well, but not without scars of one sort or another. And for years, when Memorial Day or Veterans Day comes around, I watch these 2 siblings affirm each other's military careers, and I stay silent. I love them, and I tell them so, and I tell them especially on those days. I believe in them, but my pacifist heart has a very hard time bridging that divide, and it wouldn't let me thank them for their duty to the country. And they couldn't understand my pacifism any better. Why did I not see the dangers wrought by others? Why would I not fight or at least support those fighting to protect our rights. A few years ago, I was visiting Sarah, her amazing husband, Sean, and her 2 kids, and we came to a Confederate monument. And out of earshot of the kids, I asked Sarah what she thought about the movement to take down those monuments that were monuments to another time, to a dangerous system. And before I could even finish the question, she called the kids back over. And quietly and lovingly, she taught them about war and about peace and about hard decisions. And she told them, you get to choose who you are, what you believe in, and who you will fight for. But it will outlive you. So make sure you think hard about those decisions you make. And that day, Sarah and I started to talk about war and peace. We chose to hear who the other was, and we chose to talk about the decisions we make. And as I listened, I began to understand her. Fast forward a few more years, and I come out as transgender. Sarah and Jason, my 2 siblings with a military history, the most politically conservative of my siblings at the time, the 2 I least expected support from, were of course my most stalwart supporters from the very beginning. Because she understood and she told me, it's your decision to make, not anyone else's to judge or decide. They would remind me this time and time again when I didn't know it yet. It took me a while to get it. My siblings, like so many others, they're fighting for my freedoms too. And don't get me wrong, I'm still a pacifist. I don't tend to see war as the answer. But I also understand more and more that it's worth saying, this is what I stand for. This is what I believe in. This is what I will put my body on the line to make it so. When Unitarianism and Universalism merged in 1961, they thought so too. The 6th principle, the one that doesn't get a lot of airtime, is dedicated to the goal of community, world community with peace, love, and justice for all. And as with every one of our principles, this isn't a theoretical idea. It's a response, maybe a reaction to the wars that have plagued the world during the first half of the century. But I want to be clear, this was not a we shall know peace. This was a we shall make it so. That's the core of this faith tradition. We might, and we do, differ on so many things. How we understand divinity, whether or not there's a God, and if so, what form she takes. We practice our faith differently. What we share is how we put our faith into action. This past year, I've had an opportunity to do a lot of guest preaching, various UU congregations all over the area. And in almost every UU congregation, either inside or outside, there's a pride flag, often quite faded because it's been there a long time. And it's one of the more visible ways we have of saying all are welcome here. But it's also a commitment to working towards a world in which we recognize that justice takes commitment, it takes growth, and it takes change. So in this month, which includes not only Veterans Day and the very confusing American holiday of Thanksgiving, but also the Transgender Day of Remembrance, we remember that the fight is part of why we show up each Sunday and in so many other times to practice our faith. And for those that don't know, the Transgender Day of Remembrance that I referred to at the beginning began because of the many, many lives of young transgender folks lost each year. A true and horrible statistic is a trans woman of color, on average, lives to 35 years of age before they die by violence. And add to that the increasing number of young suicides of transgender youth in a country terrified about what this means. It isn't a pretty picture, it's a quite awful one. So we work to change that. We fight for rights and needs as you use, whether you're working to free children from detention centers in Texas, whether you're working for gun control or access to mental health care or reproductive justice, you're living your faith in the most honest way I can think. So on this Veterans Day and on this Transgender Day of Remembrance, I thank you for your bravery. I thank you for your care. However you fight, whether your weapon is your words or your body, whether you write in written word or in large groups, I thank you. We'll always have disagreement about what the end point is, what it should look like, and how we fight the good fight. But I, for one, am glad to be fighting for love with all of you. Blessed be. Please rise in body or spirit and join us for hymn number 396. I know this rose will open.
I know this rose will open. I know my fears will turn away. I know my soul will burn. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will rest. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will its wings. I know my rose will burn away. I know my soul will burn. I know my fear will burn.
Our opening words are from John C. Morgan. In the end, it won't matter how much we have, but how generously we have given. It won't matter how much we know, but how well we live. And it won't matter what we believe, but how deeply we love. Please join us in our closing song.